what Yoga Darshana is when you look at what yoga is historically, yoga concept of yoga shows up like all throughout the history of India in different texts, in different ways, with different definitions. There's formal practices of yoga like, Ashtanga yoga or this like Raja yoga of Patanjali. And then there's also yoga like Bhakti yoga and Raja yoga and Kriya yoga and other ways of understanding yoga. But what makes them all sort of the same is that they're in many ways a way or ways that we kind of incorporate spirituality into our life. It's in some essence kind of like the spiritual tradition. But what makes Yoga Darshana a little bit different than all these other definitions that you'll see of yoga, like if you read the Bhagavad Gita or how it shows up in some of the Vedas and things like this, what makes Yoga Darshana different is that Yoga Darshana is actually one of 6 Indian philosophical schools of thought. And in around the year like 500 of the Common Era, CE or AD, there were these different philosophical perspectives on life. And the word darshana literally means like a point of view or perspective. It comes from the same root word drish, like if you've heard drishti, like being a gaze, it's like something that you look through a lens. And all of these different darshanas, there was these 6 of them: Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Mimamsa, Vedanta, Samkhya, and Yoga were the 6. And each of these 6 all had something in common. So the things that these 6 darshanas, these 6 philosophies had in common was that, first off, they all were interpreting the Vedas in their own way. So they were interpreting what was read in these ancient teachings in their own ways. And each of these 6 darshanas, each of these 6 philosophical schools of thought was trying to answer the same question, which is like, why in life sometimes is there suffering, which is the word duhkha, and then how do we alleviate that sense of suffering and experience sukha? And each of these different darshanas had their own answer to this question. So if you wore Yoga Darshana and your yoga glasses were yellow, the answer you saw was like in this like painted yellow color. If you were a student of Vedanta philosophy, which is like, say it was like a blue lens, your answer looked like the shade of blue. So like whatever lens you have on, that's going to tint how you solve that problem. And so yoga's darshana was an exploration of the mind. And it provided a whole system in how to better understand our mind, so that our mind isn't, because this is yoga's proposition. The mind is yoga's proposition is the mind is the cause of dukkha. And I'll explain dukkha in a moment. The word dukkha, so the root of the word dukkha is kha, K-A-H. I can type it in so you can actually see it too. So the word dukkha looks like this, and the K-A-H, ka, it can mean a couple of things. Like in Ayurveda, I believe ka means like the area in the center of the chest, and du means this feeling of constriction. Something's constricted. So why is it that like some things in life make us feel constricted? Like there's not enough room to breathe, like we're feeling suffocated, why we just can't like be fully free. Like this is what dukkha means. So we often translate it to suffering, but like suffering is a little bit misleading. English words are always a little bit misleading to the Sanskrit concepts. Or another way that you could like translate dukkha is ka is oftentimes referred to the center of a wheel where the axle slips through. And du means like that center of the wheel is cut poorly. So like say the axle of a chariot was sitting in a triangle, every turn, it would like bump, it would be jarring because it wasn't cut smoothly. So why is it that life sometimes has this feeling that like I can't get a smooth ride? This is what dukkha is. And sukha is the opposite. Su means like an extension of space in the area of the chest, or this ability to take a full breath and breathe, to be ourselves, to like experience the sense of like freedom, or absence of constriction. And so, like I said, yoga's proposition is that the cause of dukkha is somehow existing in the mind, our relationship to our mind, how the mind functions, and freedom from sukha, freedom from dukkha, movement into sukha, comes through the process of yoga. And this is really important to understand, because a lot of the way yoga is presented in in the West, of course, is like that yoga is this thing that's related to the body and the breath. But those are just tools to help us like get closer to a better understanding of the mind. We have to move through the body and through the breath and into the mind, because Yoga Darshana, which is where this sort of system of yoga stems from, is and what it is exploring, if that makes sense.